Good morning, and welcome to the first of 3 short video podcasts on human resource management. This first one is to give you an orientation and overview of the subject, and hopefully whet your appetite to explore the subject of human resources within the larger context of health systems. What do you think of when I use the word or the phrase human resources? If indeed you think of anything at all. Most people have little experience in human resources and even less understanding. For most people who have been employed, their first engagement with HR was when they were hired. Then they had to sign a variable number of forms, make some choices about health benefits, sign a W-4 form for tax purposes, that was if you were in the US, and perhaps you had to attend an orientation. For most people, that was the last time you had contact with HR until you left the organization, where there were some additional forms that had to be signed. As the average employee, you will go through your professional life unaware of the enormous complexity that underpins the human resource system in an organization. In the second of the podcasts, I'll talk a little bit more about what the human resource system is actually doing in the background, both for the organization and for you, the employees. But for now, suffice it to say that when you become the manager or implementer of a program, you really can't ignore human resources anymore. You are going to be involved in the hiring and recruiting process, as well as other aspects of human resources. And you're either going to run your own system if you're in charge of a small organization, or you'll work within the context of an existing human resource program. So what is human resource management? The simplest definition I can find is that human resource management is a strategic and comprehensive management area that involves establishing policies, practices, and administrative structures that focus on the organization's most valuable resource. And what is that most valuable resource? I challenge you to say it out loud before I make it appear. Ta-da! Give yourself 10 brownie points if you said people. So, it's a management issue, but it's also a financial and leadership issue for an organization. It's financial because personnel costs consume 70 to 80% of organizational costs, and therefore inefficient management can place financial strain on the organization. We'll see more of this in the financial management module later in the semester. It's a leadership issue because it plays a critical role in assuring that organizations have a satisfied, motivated workforce, that the organization is able to deliver quality services, and it has an important role in contributing to organizational goals while enhancing organizational competitive advantage. Human resource management has 5 key elements which will be covered in more detail in the next 2 podcasts, and which Deirdre will deal with more extensively in class on Tuesday. Firstly, salaries and benefits, although separate, are sometimes placed together into a common bundle called compensation. In this case, it's not just the cash that individuals are paid, but the non-cash income that individuals receive. And it may also include allowances as part of a salary. As a general rule, salary and allowances are regarded as taxable income, while benefits are regarded as non-taxable income. We do need to think of how are we going to hire people? How are we going to ensure that they're paid fairly? How are we going to make sure that they perform and are held accountable? And how do we apply these and other human resource issues consistently, both across the organization and over time? This is done by having these things codified as policy or procedure. Job descriptions ensure that everyone knows what they're supposed to do, and training is essential. Firstly, to orient people to their work, then to build their skills when they're first hired, and later to fill in for gaps as people require new skills and knowledge on the job. However, we as implementers obviously need to have specific skills in each of these 5 areas to run a human resource program. But I find it much more valuable to consider how these human resource functions are integrated to make an organizational functional, rather than focus on the individual tasks. In a small project or organization, human resource management may be no more complex than 2 or 3 colleagues interacting with each other and moving things rather informally. However, as a program grows with resulting organizational complexity, so the human resource system becomes increasingly complex. For those of us working in developing countries, this can have a profound effect. For example, a large, complex organization has the advantages that it has pre-developed templates for hiring, interviewing, creating compensation packages, performance management, etc., while the small group has to develop all of these from scratch. However, the small group can be flexible, adapting to the local setting, while the large organization can struggle to adapt. For example, templates may be too complex for your needs. They may be irrelevant to the local setting, and they may be inflexible. Perhaps they can't take into account Namibian labor laws or Afghan benefits practices. Before I wrap this up, I want to share some of the exciting work that's been going on in the last few years in linking human resources into the larger health system. For many years, human resources was seen as a standalone system, not relating to what else was going on in the health system. However, with growing focus on health systems over the last 5 to 10 years, and with the increased concern brought on by the global human resource crisis, a much more integrated systems approach has been described, which places human resource management as an integral element in achieving the overall goal of every health system, which is to achieve better health outcomes. Admittedly, the framework has been drawn from a very HRM-centric perspective, but it is a nice, clever way to show how the 6 WHO building blocks can be represented to interlink with HRM, making it the linchpin of the health system and the key to improved health outcomes. If this were a semester-long human resource course, we could go into this in much more detail, but as we're limited to a 2-week module and many other topics to cover, I will settle for simply identifying the existence of the framework for you and offering a couple of links that you can explore if you want more. The first is an interactive website that lays out the framework and how it relates to different aspects of the system. The second is a link that takes you to the entire report produced by the WHO and the task force. So that's the introduction. I'll leave you with my camel. Well, he wasn't really mine, but I kind of adopted him when I was in India. So see you in the next module on managing people.